all of the girls who had their play created into the play called Files, which Katie Haroff put together, they all came from the LEAP board. So there's 4 young women, and they're 16 to 22, and they go to these advocacy meetings, and we've been participating in those meetings, finding out what things are concerning them, and then they met as a group to learn about theater techniques, to talk about their stories, different ways into their stories, and then started to craft it together into a play together.
From the beginning, I knew that it was going to be difficult to come up with a finale of a piece, a collaborative piece with this entire group that I had. And I was right. Then I had these 4 girls that ended up being the core of the group that I had worked with initially. When initially it was 12, and I would correspond with the others individually, these 4 kept coming together and meeting with me. So I took the program from the beginning, and I learned a lot about them throughout that, and then in the end it just became about working with these 4 girls and developing their story. There was no reason for them to come other than those who wanted to speak. You know, they weren't getting graded, they weren't getting any money, they weren't getting very much from it. It was just an environment in which they were given one more opportunity to express themselves.
Our programs all these years have been about fictionalizing stories, and so this was really saying, what's your real story? And finding safe ways into that story so that we're not intruding on private moments that someone doesn't want to share. But I think we've learned some good techniques for talking with people, helping them to craft their stories, helping them to identify points in their lives, experiences that are really what is going to reveal the changes that they've made in their lives. And
I took a lot of the experience I had in training, in writing, in my educational background, and just sort of said, you know what, you might like this, you might not, but this is something that I want to give you, so in case you ever have this opportunity again, you have a way to express yourself in an artistic way. And throughout that, I was very honest with them. You know, I would ask them to tell a story, and in order to draw it out of them a little bit, or give them an idea of what exactly I was asking, I would tell them very point-blank, frank stories about myself. I come from an abusive household. I was very briefly in the foster care system myself. I'm not saying that my story or my life has any relation to theirs, or is by comparison, you know, as drastic as what they went through, but I made sure that I was open and honest about who I was as a person. And I think in doing that, and in doing it in an artistic way, I somehow made them comfortable with me.
At first it was really hard for me to open up, because she would ask me questions, and I'm really good at like sugarcoating or beating around the bush or not telling you the full story. And then I got comfortable, like at first I would only tell like little bits of parts to where it really was really sugar-coated, and I'd be like, oh, this and this and this, but then I got to the point where I was like, you know what, I really need to be on point and let them know exactly as close as I can to my comfortability state, so that, you know, so that it isn't another one of those stories out there that's sugar-coated that the community gets parts of, or they don't get the full view.
So after a while of sharing, they started to reciprocate. You know, I would tell a story and they would tell a story, and we would be sitting around and just telling stories. And I think the most interesting thing that happened was that they sort of realized that no one has ever asked before. Specifically, what is their timeline? What was their life? What do they remember? And that sort of opened something for them.
Every time I hear it, it kind of like, it brings up the past, but it's kind of like, you know, if I want change, I need to be that change. And I can sit here and all this stuff that I went through, I don't want the next person to go through. So maybe by me telling my story, I can save somebody else.
It's a great feeling to have that, you know, you shared it with other people and now they may possibly relate or, you know, not let that happen to them and speak up before it's too late.
By me telling my story, even though I don't feel comfortable letting everybody know, I know there's hundreds of kids out there that are in my same position, and I mean, I decided to be that one that stands up and let them know it is okay and that you do have a voice and there is a right about things, and to be the change, to have change, you need to be the change.
The life of a foster youth, I think, is such a mystery in this society. People don't want to know about it. And people, I mean, it's one of those things that it's just, that's too sad, you know? And the idea, I mean, I know that a lot of people know this, but people don't want to adopt teenagers. People don't want to take a look at that life that's already over in a way. Too much damage is done. But the community has to see this work, because then they can know that that's just not true. It's not over for them.
I am an activist.
I am a wonderful friend.
I am an exceptional student.
I am a loving youth advocate.
I am heavily involved in extracurricular activities.
I want to help people and change the world. I want to climb mountains and run races.
I am so much smarter than you would ever expect me to be. You'd be missing out if you didn't give me the opportunity to change your life.
I am a survivor. I'm a fighter.
I love my life and I have fought every day to never lose it.
I
Would have been worth adopting.
deserve to be cared for and loved.
I am incredible. And this could never, ever contain me or us.
And play.
It's really incredible to see all of this put together like in this way. I mean, it's just it's a fantastic example about how things really work. And you know, a lot of times we kind of spin our wheels when we have meetings about meetings, but this is a real, tangible, and I know it's going to have a deep impact and effect on a lot of people.
I was shocked at how little I knew about this world. I had no idea, and so many people have no idea. And I think that just speaks to the import of the project, about getting it out there so that people know that so many people have to go through these sorts of experiences all the time.
That's why it's written.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. The system needs to be improved. And I think that's obvious, and that's something that has come up again and again and again. But through these stories and through many other stories that I've heard, the system needs to be improved. And I think that the more exposure that is gained, the more people will try to help, the more people will try to change what's there. There's just not enough exposure for them.
It was a tool for us to help to inform, to not just entertain, but for people to really get a picture of what children are going through.